You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Allard.
All right. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. We're going to talk to Amber Case and Kelly Alexander for Harvest House. This is your first time on the podcast, isn't it, Kelly?
Yes, it is.
I forgot that for new time guests, they're supposed to sing their favorite song. So,
oh, no one wants to hear that.
all right, Josh, we need to get the whiskey out on the back. No, anyway, don't. It's all good. You know, it's just a conversation. Amber, this is like your third time or fourth time? I lose count.
This is my third time. So Jennifer and I did it once, Garrett and I, and then Elizabeth Becker, Debbie Beamham, and I did it the last time.
Yeah.
But Kelly, I did sing. I sang a Sound of Music song.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Totally not my style.
So, Kelly, what's your title at Harvest House?
I'm the community outreach manager for Harvest House.
We're going to talk about what that means. I mean, sometimes these titles, like, I'm in charge of something, and like, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. They just said that's your new title. So we'll find out what you do for Harvest House. And also, we're going to talk with Amber about the story that she shared with Colin Gregory about a month ago, and she shared with other groups as well about her traumatic past, shall we say. You know, a lot of people are familiar with that. And I'm more interested, not so much in the details, certainly, because that is available on Colin's podcast, but more the response that is, I'm sure it's received a tremendous response. And I'd be interested to see that. But first, let's talk about the sponsors, because they make this possible. I bet, Kelly, you know all these sponsors. Certainly you know our place. Yeah,
yes.
You've been there before?
Yes, I just frequented there last week, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll be going there Thursday morning for the bi-weekly breakfast I have with my Sunday school men, and we sit there, and when we get tired of trying to solve the world's problems, we talk football. And so
I had my in-laws came into town for my stepson's graduation, and they wanted a recommendation for a local breakfast place. And, of course, I sent them to our place, and they had such an amazing time. They were able to meet Otto's son, and it was just they raved, and I let Otto know how much we appreciated having a place that, you know, when you recommend someone to go there, that they're going to get
exactly
great food and service.
And it really is it's a good thing because, you know, every time I go there, I don't worry about the quality of the food or the service. Same thing with Gina's, by the way. I go to Gina's 2-3 times a month, and I go to Harvest House 2-3 times a month. And I'm not just going there to shine up a sponsor. I'm going there because I like what I get, you know. And so I like to do business, so to speak, at Gina's. You know, you got the atmosphere, you got the pizza, you got the ball game on TV, you can get yourself a beer, and you're good to go.
You're conducting business while having a beer? That's interesting.
Well, it's just one beer. Holy cow! It's not like I'm
that gives us your more of your opinion.
Yeah, boy, no, I'll take more than one beer for that. But
well, you know, Gina's is right next door to Harvest House, so all of us from Harvest House frequent Gina's, definitely.
No doubt that's true. Also, here I'm going to get ready to share all this with all the various people, but also our friend over at Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. It's time to get your roof checked out, guys, because if you don't, and then you find out, you know, my goodness, it's a storm and I'm leaking, that's not when you find out you need a new roof or whatever. So he'll come and check your roof out. Won't cost you anything. He'll tell you the truth. If your roof is fine, he'll tell you. If it needs some repair, he'll tell you. So it's not some sort of shell game, whatever. You know, and you know, you get a lot of roofing companies, and fine, everybody needs to make a living, but you want to do business with hometown folks. And Chamber of Commerce members and contributors to our various nonprofits. And so there you are. So 817-734-2756 will get you John out there. Also, my friend Jeff Kelly, he was on the show about 3 weeks ago. We were talking about real estate, you know, because he sells all over Johnson County. And, you know, and he comes and goes, I don't know how real estate agents do it, tell you the truth.
I don't either.
You know, because you have to be on 24/7, basically. You know, you have to get up in the morning, hit the ground. You have to go to bed thinking about it. You know, I couldn't do it.
Nights, weekends.
Yes. But apparently he can, so there you are. So anyway, call him at 817-781-0546. Plus, I can vouch for him personally. He's a very pleasant company. And if you're going to spend all day with a realtor, you want to enjoy the company. You know?
We definitely have a common bond. We both own Doodles. And so we have an avid love for Doodles, me and Jeff Kelly.
You talking about like
The dogs.
Okay, I was thinking
Yes.
doodles like drawing on a page, like my students would do when I was talking about the War of 1812 or whatever, that kind of thing. That's not what we're talking about here. Doodles. What kind of doodle do you have?
I have an Aussie Doodle.
You have 2 Aussie
Oh,
doodles.
I do. I have 2 Aussie Doodles.
You're a dog girl then, so to speak?
I am a dog girl.
Good for you. My wife is a dog girl temporarily. She'll babysit our son's dog, but after about 3 days, we're done. And so that's that kind of thing. But anyway, here I'm sharing the rest of it. There you go. Thank you, Jeff. Also, thank you to Al Warner over at Bass Printing and Promotional Products and whatnot over at 817-616-8761. So if you need some promotional materials, you can put your logo or name or whatever you want stamped on just about anything you can think of: hats, cups, and pins, shirts, and whatever else. I've gotten materials from him, mailers, bifolds, trifolds, things like that, and it's great quality. So call him again.
I'm assuming he's an avid bass fisher.
No, he's not. No, this is a franchise.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Franchise, not a chain. And he bought the franchise and decided to keep the name because it was that was what it was called prior to that, and he wanted to keep the continuity.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's
Interesting.
an interesting guy. He's from St. Kitts, and so
wow.
and he does a lot of business in the Caribbean as well. Or is it Caribbean? I never could figure that out. Which is it? You going to tell us?
Don't catch me in a geography lesson.
Right.
So anyway, Alric, it's ALRICK at bassprinting.com. Will get you his email, so give him a holler. Also, I think today is the day that Local Life magazine comes out. I know it's either today or tomorrow. It's almost always at the first of the month. And it goes to 30,000 homes. It's very well done. Always has local stories. It's always a good thing. I know she does a nonprofit issue every year. So around Christmas time usually, isn't it?
Yes.
And so I guess she'll be on the cover this time.
And we partner with her for marketing for Vineyard Vibes and other things like that. So
Oh, yeah.
we love Tiffany.
Yeah, good. Well, she does good work. I like what she does. So give her a holler if you're looking to advertise in this area. Also, I think we have, we'll save the nonprofit stuff for the end. We have a couple of nonprofit things coming on the end of the month. Our friends over at Next Step have something coming on in about 3 weeks. And then friends at Wings of Hope, who were on yesterday, have something coming on August 1st. Do y'all have any events coming up anytime soon?
September 23rd, we have our community awareness. That's probably not the right word, but it's Bridges Out of Poverty training. And we can talk about that. It's going to be at First Baptist Church. It's going to be we're bringing in a trainer from Muskogee, Oklahoma, and they are the experts on this program, Bridges Out of Poverty. So it's a community awareness where we're going to bring in key community members, first responders, police officers, hospitals, and other community members who are interested in that program. So that's September 23rd. And then our next one is not till the fall. So we can talk about that closer to the fall, our brunch.
I shared all this show, and I shared it on the wrong links. So I'm going to have to do this again while y'all are
Oh,
visiting.
my goodness.
Yeah, but anyway,
Okay.
It's no big deal. I'll just holler and yell for Josh. I need the link. So anyway.
Maybe the show that you shared was more important than this one.
No, it was Otto's ad, and I looked on it and I thought that was, and that's what I thought was our show was, because he's up there on the screen and there. But anyway, it'll work out. But anyway, so what day of the week is that training on, by the way?
September the 23rd, I believe it's a Tuesday.
Good, because on the 25th is North Texas Giving Day, and you were with Harvest House last September 20, whatever it was, day it was on. It's the last Thursday of September, but what'll happen is we'll get all the nonprofits and we'll go to Gina's and do the show there, and they'll each get like 8 to 9 minutes to promote their show. And it's really, really a great show. It's my favorite of the year because you see all these nonprofit groups and you know how well y'all work together. They all collaborate, they talk, have some pizza and visit, and it's a really touching moment because one thing is in this community anyway, there is a lot of cross connections between the various groups and a lot of support within the community for the other groups, references, things of that nature, and whatever else. And so I've been really, really blessed being here. I could sit here and watch all this go on from a more global view, and it's really great. And so
I was here. I just wasn't at that event. I've been at Harvest House for 5 years.
Right, I remember, but it was Jennifer that was
Jennifer that did that, yes. So that'll be me. I'll be excited to join this year.
Yeah. Well, Good. And you can come too, Kelly. It's okay.
Oh, I'm sure I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll
well-
pop in and see what's going on.
Oh, yeah. But you're also the community outreach manager, right?
Yes, I am.
What does that mean?
So what that means is that I go out into the community and I establish relationships for Harvest House, and I continue relationships that we already have. I'm also a part of the diplomats for the chamber. I do a lot of networking for Harvest House. I'm a part of a lot of those groups.
She plans and executes our 2 major events for the year.
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. And I remember the Vineyard and Vibes, and then you have, it used to be like a breakfast, but it's more like a brunch towards the end of the year, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And you get to plan all that, right?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see you about 24 hours prior to that. You're probably going to be stressed out.
No, it'll be fine.
Oh, good for you then. That's
We're
glad.
ahead of the game,
Well,
for sure.
You know, I've made this analogy plenty of times. It's like a wedding. You know, the bride's all tense, but everybody else, yeah, we're good. You know what I'm saying? It's all good, and everybody, they're more interested in the wedding. They're not looking for details. And if there's a couple of glitches, so what? You know, it's all fun.
So Vineyard Vibes was her first event that she did all by herself this year, and she did a phenomenal job.
Yes, she did.
And she wasn't crazy or stressed at the beginning. She stayed pretty calm.
Not too crazy, not too stressed at the beginning. Okay,
I was
good.
a little more stressed whenever I did the event. I acted
All right, I got to get shared now properly, so we're good.
good.
So now you're on 8 different platforms.
Great.
Yeah.
No pressure, Kelly.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it's okay. Most people watch this later. I mean, it's okay. It's not, you know, if they have any questions, we'll put them on the screen, but most people watch this on their time. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
you know, I understand some people work for a living. I don't know what that means, but there you go. So you go out, Kelly, you're trying to go out there and, you know, not so much raise awareness, but maintain awareness of the Harvest House, because everybody knows the Harvest House.
Yes, and just maintain our already established relationships. Some of the relationships that I form or build is to help our food pantry, people that will donate food to us, host food drives, things of that nature. I also promote volunteerism within Harvest House.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, it is.
I was being facetious, but you're, it's
What?
great. You know,
It is.
because I've talked to every nonprofit, and they said, you know, everybody needs volunteers. In fact, my church, who promises, you know, y'all collaborate a lot together too. They just sent out a, you know, all points bulletin. They need help for their Kids Eat Free program. So I'm kind of promoting that myself. I know they're your competition. Well, not really.
We don't have
Nah, I know.
We are collaborators.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, Debbie Beeman came in and really kind of made that a priority to collaborate with Harvest House. And I think it's really worked out pretty well.
Yeah, Debbie and I work very well together. We've done a number of things together, and we serve the same people.
Right.
So
exactly. Literally. I mean, it's not just the same demographic, but the same people.
exactly, yeah, we serve the same people.
And so they need volunteers for that. I'm sure y'all need volunteers. Do y'all have special summer programs going on?
We do. We have our summer food program for kids.
Right.
So our summer food program targets the kids that were receiving the free and reduced lunch. And so typically a family is able to come once a month to get food. But during the summer months, we put special food packages together in addition to that food that have food that the kids can make for themselves. That most people who've had children home during the summer, they eat you out of house and home.
Lord, do they? Yeah.
So there are things that are, fruit cups, granola bars, Hot Pockets, Lunchables, things that we wouldn't normally stock in our food pantry. We do food drives to gather them. We have generous donors that give us funds that we can buy those specific things. So far, the month of June, we served 186 kids twice a month in addition to the regular food for summer food program.
Now, do y'all coordinate with the school districts? I know BISD does have a couple of the elementaries open for summer meals, but that's it. All right. And
Yeah.
So for a lot of kids, they're used to having breakfast and lunch at school, right? And, and now that they're home and maybe their parent or parents are working or unavailable, whatever the reason, they don't have school to feed them. And that's always been a real problem. But that's why I know y'all been doing it. And Promises began doing it about a couple of years ago. They began doing it because a lot of those kids are missing those meals.
They're missing those meals, and statistics show that during the summer months, the neglect, the abuse, and the stress that the parents have is intensified. And one of those stress factors is the inability to feed the children and food insecurity. And so we can't alleviate all of the barriers or all of the obstacles that are causing that additional stress, but we can assist it in the areas that God's called us to, which is the food insecurity.
Right. And the thing about it is, and not to make light of it, but also it's 102 degrees outside, and you're stressing about the electricity bill, which I bet you see a lot of. You also provide certain levels of financial assistance.
We do.
I know you like to do more, but it's kind of like you're just helping to get through to the next month almost.
Yes.
But those bills get pretty high.
They do get high, and we're already completely booked. So we only book for 1 month prior, and then we stop booking until we get closer to the next month so that we can meet people's immediate needs. But we started booking this week for July, and July is already completely booked up for our financial aid appointments.
I don't know.
Great.
I don't know the weather forecast for the summer if it's going to be hotter or less hot than normal, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be hot. In Texas, you have 2 seasons, hot and dang hot, and so you like that one, okay? And so I know that's a real stress for a lot of people, and physically it's a stressor, and so you come home to a warm apartment or house and whatever, and things aren't going that great. The police will tell you that the episodes of abuse really do rise, of various kinds: spousal abuse, child abuse, whatever, even animal abuse, which is sad. Our friend Aaron from Cleveland says hello.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, Darren.
Aaron, actually.
Oh, Aaron.
Sorry.
He's up there on the screen. He's watching real time. He says hello from Cleveland. Y'all stay cool out there. All
I
right.
like your guitar, Aaron.
Yeah, it's his Elvis avatar.
Nice.
nice.
What's this, an avatar?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's what concerns me is the summertime. There's just, we get this idea that summertime is a lot of relaxation, it's freedom or whatever. It's not. It's actually a very hard time for parents in a lot of ways that don't have the ability to stay home with the kids or have secure daycare they can afford or rely upon and that kind of thing. So it's a stressor.
It is a stressor.
And they come to y'all, and they're probably all tense and wigged out and whatever else, and you have to help kind of calm them down, I'll bet.
We do. We have, we see a lot of our clients, we see them in their most vulnerable and stressed out state. And so one of the things, one of my favorite names of God is El Rai, and that's the God that sees you right where you are. And so that was the name that was given in the place whenever Hagar went out into the wilderness, and she took her baby and she was under the tree, and she pretty much was like, I'm done. And God visited her as El Rai. And so that's one of the things that we talk about with our staff and that we desire for the community is for us to see our clients right where they are.
Right. Kelly, how long have you been with Harvest House?
I've been with Harvest House for 5 years.
Where were you before? Were you nonprofits then too, or just?
I was not actually at a nonprofit. I was working at Tarrant County College, and COVID hit, and so they closed all of the campuses and laid all of the staff off.
Oh.
And so I would go into the very tiny resale store at that time and shop at Harvest House. And I had established a relationship with the girls that were in the resale store, and they let me know that they were hiring. So my very first job ever for them was to answer the door and take in donations for $8 an hour, I think.
You princely sum, yes. It's how you get rich in this world, is working for nonprofits.
Yeah. Kelly and I started 2 weeks apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so this is before the resale shop opened up, though. Was that?
So we've had a resale store. It was just very tiny in our main building.
In Thomas Street.
Yes.
Right.
And so, yes, it was prior to it moving across the street.
And now every time I go by, we drop off stuff there some. It looks like that storage room is full. I mean, you look like you have enough clothes there but yeah, I've asked people, so do you have too much clothing? And they go, this will be gone in about 3 weeks. So because that's how much turnover you'll get. A lot of business is done. My wife goes there. She likes that store a lot because she's found some things there that are pretty valuable that are very affordable. And so, and I know that when I was teaching high school, a lot of the kids would shop either there or at the Goodwill store and later Rachel's Hope because they like to thrift. That's a thing with them. I don't know if it still is, but it was then. And so they go and buy a shirt for $4 or something like that.
Thrifting has become popular.
Yeah.
Kelly was the assistant manager of the storehouse for a year or two? 2 years?
And maybe 2.5 almost. Yes.
You like this job better?
Well, my experience with Harvest House has been amazing. I loved every position that I've had with them. It's really about learning and growing and just having those connections for Harvest House and our nonprofit.
Yeah. Well, it's been part of the community for, Lord,
40 years?
Yeah.
40 years, yeah.
And, when I moved here in 91, I already heard about it. And the number of nonprofits have grown since then, not just in number, but in size as well. And not many communities can say that, that they have this much service or this much level of, I don't know, compassion, support, whatever you want to call it, to people that are in certain situations.
I think that's what keeps one of the things that keeps Burleson unique is that we have such an amazing group of nonprofits. And just about every area that a social service is needed, there's a nonprofit there to meet that need. And I think that's one of the things that's going to be critical as Burleson continues to grow and expand, and that we continue to meet those needs so that we can keep people housed, we can keep people fed, and that keeps the crime down, that keeps the homelessness down. And I think that we all play a key part in that, and obviously the support of the community so that we can continue doing what we do so that everyone can continue to live in big, beautiful Burleson.
Right. Well,
Big, beautiful Bill, big, beautiful Burleson.
Well, speaking of which, this is me talking, not them, so don't put on that. But I was made aware earlier today that Big, Beautiful Bill is going to impact our nonprofits, and not in a positive way. All right, it's going to cost estimated $40 billion because they're going to change certain aspects of giving and tax law and things like that. And, I'll save the political ranting for my own time, but that is going to be an impact on our community, period. And there were also earlier bills that aren't related to this Big, Beautiful Bill that would also impact in a negative way giving, particularly through the Department of Agriculture. They want to cut back on SNAP, on the food stamps program, the food assistance program. They also want to cut back on certain types of donations and things like that. And so I'm sure you have your feelings about that, but it doesn't really matter right now. I mean, what will that do to Harvest House and other like communities?
It's a big. It will have a big impact. It's already having a big impact. There are, we are currently in a situation where Harvest House is blessed that our funding is very diversified. However, there are every room I go to, every meeting I go to with other nonprofit leaders, the conversation is being had about the impact that it's having, and everyone's feeling the impact differently depending upon what kind of a organization they are. For instance, last week I was with an executive director training, and one of the ladies is a part of an organization up towards Flower Mound that's like Reach Council, like our Reach Council here. They do drug education, Narcan training. And so they're part of this has pulled all the funding to give out free Narcan.
Is this Erica Vyers you're talking about?
No, that's the Reach Council, but the particular person I met is in an organization like that that's far north. It's in Flower Mound.
Okay.
And so their organization is smaller, much smaller, but they're seeing a big impact from that. And for instance, Harvest House, we had Narcan training. We have Narcan that was freely given to us by the Reach Council. That's all throughout our organization. And so funding has been cut for that. It doesn't really matter what sector the nonprofit is in. There are huge impacts that are being faced by people right now based upon, again, I'm not making a political statement. I'm making a statement based upon what it looks like for the nonprofits. We have seen food pantries that have had to close days of service. We've seen people who were receiving food from USDA-funded programs that are not able to receive that food. And so the way that trickle-down effects happens to Harvest House is at this time, we have seen an increase in our services that are needed because other organizations are struggling. And eventually that's going to cause a struggle for Harvest House.
Yes.
If the Big Beautiful Bill passes and the things are changed with how we receive our funding from large donors and foundations, that's going to have a huge impact because Harvest House is supported by foundations and larger funds, and it's one of our diversifications.
Right.
So there is no way to, if these things continue, it's going to come down to the individuals in the community to rally together and support. So if we move all of the, you can't have both. If you remove the government, then you as a people are going to have to step up.
You're exactly right. And some people say that's a positive aspect of the bill. I'm not so sure. Well, I'll just go ahead and say it. Again, this is me talking, not them. I'm not in favor of this big, beautiful bill on a lot of different levels, and this is one of them. We were talking also when the three of y'all were here about how it was impacting like the the county, Tarrant County Food Bank.
County Food
Say
Bank,
it right.
yes.
Tarrant County Food Bank, and how they were getting cutbacks from the ag department, and therefore it was making it more difficult to get stuff from them. And this is just another aspect of it. And so whether or not the communities will step up, if that's the intended goal, they're going to have to really step up. I mean, because we think of the government, certain different ways, but they do sometimes do the right thing, and this is one of them, And this is a very important thing, because even if you had like a 10% cut in your budget, that's going to hurt.
Huge. Yeah. Harvest House is a $3.5 million budget, so that would be huge.
Yeah. And there is nobody that would going to benefit from this bill, no organization. And I'm not really sure why they're doing it. I think a lot of it has to do with the Trump administration's antagonism towards university endowments and things of that nature. They're trying to target those, and I think y'all are getting caught in the backwash, so to speak. But we'll see if it passes or not. But that's another show. I'll be ranting about that in about 2 weeks, I'll bet. But that is an issue. And if I were to ask you right now, what do y'all need the most, other than money, of course? I mean, everybody needs that. But, well, no, you do, right? I mean, it's part of the business. It's your 24/7 fundraising. That, to me, I think is one of the hardest aspects of being a nonprofit, is that you're never going to be in a situation, well, we're good, we'll can lay off for a couple of months. No, you're always having to fundraise.
That's right. All year long, every year,
and
fundraising.
And you have to get up in the morning and say, geez, I got to do this again, because fundraising is hard.
Fundraising is trying. When people ask what's the one thing that we need the most, I like to kind of just take a couple minutes and break it down. So there's not one thing that we need more than the other. We have to have money, but we have to have people donate food, because if we would not, we get $1.5 million worth of food that's donated every year. If we did not receive that food in donation, the actual food, then we would have to be buying it at a higher cost, right? So the food donation is very important. The clothing and household item donations that people give to the resale store, that is how we provide, we wouldn't be able to buy those items either. So those donations are essential for clothing people and supplying people in need. We partner with Crazy 8, with the police department, with our clients, ensuring that people have proper household items. So those items are just as important. The resale store also funds our operations. And then you have people that give money. The money is essential because obviously that helps us to buy the things that we need to fund our financial aid operations. And each one of those is equally as important. If I had to pick one thing right now that was the most need, it's food. Bringing food is critical. We've got a number. Alley Cats is doing a food drive for us. Sierra Bank just ended their food drive for us. We've got fall food drives coming up once school resumes, where the Burleson ISD, every school in Burleson ISD participates in a fall food drive for us. But right now, food is where we are seeing the biggest hit. And so people can order on Amazon off of our wish list from our website. People can bring by, believe it or not, when someone brings by 2 or 3 cans, that matters.
Right.
They're cleaning out their pantry, or they got something extra at the store. Those things add up, and those contribute to, because we can't buy food at that cost. We, and again, not to get into the political landscape of it, but when we lost City Market, we were able to purchase food at cost through City Market. We no longer have that.
Yeah.
So when we're purchasing food, we're purchasing it at regular cost right now.
I remember an HEB and Kroger used to avail themselves of that service to y'all, but they don't anymore.
They donate food to us.
Right.
I mean, HEB is a huge supporter, but we're not able to order food at cost with them.
Right. But I know HEB really is a good
They're
assistant.
amazing.
I don't want to imply that they're not, because I'm very fond of HEB, not just as a customer, but because I had a lot of students that work for them, and unlike a lot of grocery stores that I've been acquainted with, they actually treated these young people like kids instead of like peasants or whatever, or like peons. But anyway, I know that from my friends at Promises, they have a hard time keeping cereal on the shelf.
Cereal is so hard.
Yeah, cereal, and then what'll happen is they'll get a big crate of black-eyed peas by some sadist who wants people to eat black-eyed peas. I hate black-eyed peas. But but they need other things. They'll have maybe a lot of corn, but not enough green beans, which is another, I'm not fond of
We
them
have
either.
plenty of green beans.
Yeah.
We have
Yes.
pallets of green beans.
Yeah,
We had a huge food drive with Burleson Church of Christ, and we are so thankful. They ordered their congregation did the pack the pulpit, and then they ordered additional food. So they helped us with our cereal supply. But that cereal, peanut butter, canned meat, spaghetti sauce, spaghetti noodles, those things are staples that are always needed. And because those are more expensive items, a lot of times those things aren't donated. Any of our summer food items, which is, fruit cups, granola bars, macaroni and cheese, the individual macaroni and cheese cups, those things are always needed.
Right. And I am, again, referring to my friends at Promises, they get swamped a lot, particularly towards the end of the month, because a lot of people's money runs out before the month does, and they have a hard time keeping canned food on the shelf. But or they'll have a lot of one and not enough of another, and that kind of
Yes.
thing. And it's a constant thing. And also produce.
Such a huge thing.
Yeah.
We hardly ever get produce.
Yeah, that's it. People think that you got all these avenues of support that you ought to be swimming in all this, and that's not true at all. But even if you have a big food drive at the schools in the fall, like I used to do with student council, and you get a big wave of food, we're going to get a big wave of people taking it, who need it, particularly at that time of year. And so it didn't last long on the shelf, does it?
No, it does not. The turnover is. We saw, I pulled the numbers before I came. And so in June was 556 families. And so some of our families are our largest family is 13.
Ooh.
So that's 556 just represents family units that came through our food, pantry.
13 kids, or 11 at least, whatever. That's
Yes, that particular family is a regular family unit that has a husband and wife and 11 kids.
Good heavens. 2 are about to put me under the table, and they're grown people. But anyway, that was something I've told you the story before about when I was with student council. I had a student really took control of it. This is like year 2006, I believe. And she really just said, I'm going to make this work. And we came in with 4 flatbeds of food the day before Thanksgiving, holiday started. And I walked in there and said, hey, we got some grub out here for you. And they start tearing up. And I go, well, did I say something wrong? They said, no, come on, let me show you something. And it was like literally a bag of groceries left on the shelf right before Thanksgiving. And we come in with 4 flatbeds. I mean, it was like 8 tons. And I don't think we'll ever break that record, for at least Burleson High School. But
There's always a big rival between Burleson and Centennial on who gives the most food.
Oh, I hope so. But here's the point I want to circle back to that you made is like somebody comes in with like 3 cans. They shouldn't feel like, well, it's only 3 cans. I was telling the people at Wings of Hope yesterday, I very much subscribe to the fish and loaves theory of giving.
Yes.
Those people that give 3 cans are just as generous as somebody with the wherewithal to give 2 flatbeds or whatever worth of food.
And God will multiply that and bless that tremendously. I have a shirt that says 5 and 2. I'm very big on the loaves and fishes as well.
I never understood that story, though, because why is this little boy's mother the only one that thought about packing lunch out of all those people? But anyway,
Right.
But the point is that it's like giving of any kind, donations financially. Another is like, well, I can't give $10,000. Well, can you do 20 a month? Well, yeah, I can do that. And at 20 a month, I know the way that y'all budget and all these nonprofits budget, y'all really count on those monthly giving on a consistent basis.
Absolutely. Reoccurring donors are the only funding that we can forecast on. We have a reoccurring donor that is a $1 a month reoccurring donor. And when I tell you how much we appreciate that person, because we know that must mean so much to them, and that's where they can give. And I am so thankful for that donor. There's a variety of ways that you can give, but being a recurring donor, even if it's just $1.
Our friends at Wings of Hope have a message for you. See right there on the screen. Thank you for being such a great part of our community.
Thanks, Wings of
We
Hope.
love our Harvest House friends.
We love you too, Allison.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Allison, but
Well,
that's
it could be. It may be Tessa.
Yes.
Or Jessica Shank. Either one. They were both on the show yesterday. But back to the matter is that a lot of people feel intimidated, I guess. And this happens in church too, when they go for a fundraiser or whatever, donations, give, and tithing. And well, there's another story that means a lot to me in Scripture, and that's the widow's mites. You know, that widow who gave that small amount, that was it, you know, for her. And so God's going to bless whatever you give. And particularly, you know, if $20 a month is sacrificial to you, God's not going to be unaware of that, so to speak.
Yes,
you know?
that's good.
And so that's why I always stress to the community, don't feel like that because you can't give $1,000 that really you'd have nothing to contribute to these organizations. You have a lot to contribute to them. And so it's, you know, let's just say that, you know, I've been more aware since I've been doing the show about the, you know, not just y'all's needs, but everybody else's and whatever else. And I haven't missed any meals, is if that's not obvious. And so, you know, you find a way, right? And so I would stress, hope for people to really get into that habit. Okay.
It's the one thing in the Bible that God says to test him on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of months I feel like I've given him the test, but
I believe absolutely in that principle, and he'll multiply that and he'll bless. And, you know, you're sowing seeds into the lives of all the people that we sow. It's not just a gift to support the ministry. You are a part of the miracles, and you are a part of that. And, you know, the Bible says what you did to the least of these, you did to me.
Well, you know, and I don't know if like anything I've ever given, it could be, I'll never find out directly who it helped, right? Because, you know, because when you give things to these type of organizations, you should let them go, right? You don't. You all right, dear? All right, we'll talk with Kelly now while she's.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we have talked to Amber about cutting back 2 packs of Marlboros a day, and you know,
Wow.
Amber just not really on board with this yet.
I'm so sorry. That water went down the wrong pipe.
Yeah, that's the joy of live podcasting. But this isn't. This is a neighborhood podcast, so you know it's all good. Anyway, now you made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
And that's all right. Anyway, but so to kind of reiterate, besides whatever financial donations, you do need just about every kind of food product there is. I mean, you know, because the avenues of food that you know, from public sources is drying up, and if this bill passes, it's just going to be one more obstacle to overcome. Now, would it impact y'all directly? It can't help but impact all these groups, even a little bit. All right? Particularly if you're talking about donations from foundations and things of that nature. I don't know why people want to mess with that, but that's their problem right now. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about something totally different, but it's something that you made aware to the public, and that has been your past story. You were on Colin Gregory's show or podcast. I don't know if he has a routine show, but he has a podcast he does with the police department, and you talked about your story about escaping an abusive situation, and all the details. They're pretty hard to listen to. You know, I have to ask: is it hard for you to bring up this stuff on a routine basis? Because I'll be probably, as far as I know, the third person who's asked you in public about sharing your story. Is it a hard thing to do?
It is. So the podcast that I did with Colin with the Burleson Police Department was the first time that I have publicly shared my story of abuse. So it happened 13 years ago. So it's taken 13 years. My abuser was in prison for 12 years. And it's interesting timing because all that period of time, whenever I could have talked about it, or there would have been where he was behind bars, the way that God opened up the timing for me to start talking about it happens to be after he was released from prison, which was an interesting, I doubt he saw the podcast, but it's very difficult to talk about. But I know, and I have such a strong conviction that God didn't save me so that I could keep quiet. If you go back to just the little song that you sang in Vacation Bible School, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Hide it under a bushel? No, I'm going to let it shine. So God has called me, especially in the role I have here as executive director of Harvest House and the clients that we deal with, to really put a face to what restoration looks like, what specifically for that podcast, what the impact of a strangulation law would have on victims or survivors of domestic violence. I like to use the word survivor instead of victim.
Right.
And so, and the impact that that has on people that are our clients, people in the community that may be suffering. Hey, look, this is what it can look like on the other side, and to provide a message of hope. And the only way for me to do that is to start talking about my story. There's been enough time that's been removed from it that it's not as traumatic. And I don't think that the specific details are really necessary for the whole story, other than for that podcast. But the hope that there is, and knowing that you can overcome those things, and then just the impact it had on clients. I had a number of people come to Harvest House from the community that were struggling in situations that wanted to have a conversation with me because they saw the podcast.
Well, you've already kind of intimated what led you to do it. You felt like God was calling you to do this on behalf of other women as well. Did you contact Colin, or he contact you?
It was wild how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually at the Burleson Ministerial Alliance, and it was the first Burleson Ministerial Alliance I had been to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Officer Byram was speaking there, and he just at the last minute grabbed Colin along.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were there talking about something completely different, and just Colin took a left turn and spent off and just talked about the strangulation ordinance. And while he was talking about it, I know the Holy Spirit speaks to everyone differently, but the way he speaks to me when he wants me to do something immediately is I start to get this urge and this unction in my spirit that I need to do something. And so the Holy Spirit and we were wrestling together during that whole thing. And I heard him saying, you need to go talk to them. And I was trying to negotiate, like, this is not appropriate. This is not the time. And the Holy Spirit was like, no, if you don't, I've given you this opportunity, and I want you to go approach them. So I approached Officer Byram and Colin after the ministerial license was over, and I was just like, hey, I really...
Just a message on the screen that you might want to...
Oh, thanks, Irma. I appreciate that.
Keep sharing your story. It'll impact more people than you know. She also texted me complimenting you on your skincare routine.
Oh.
So, but anyway, I don't want to interrupt your story.
Where was I? So I just approached them, and really the reason why I approached them was just to let them know that if they have women that are walking through that I would be more than happy to have them come talk to me, or for me to come talk to them. And that's kind of the extent of what I shared. And then they pressed a little further, and then Colin's like, I think that you and I need to sit down and have a conversation. And so that's kind of how we ended up in that situation.
Well, it must have been very difficult, particularly on a podcast forum, because you're exposing yourself to a very painful event. And I'm kind of curious, what kind of response have you received? What kind of response have you received from women in like situations? They contact you on Facebook or email or just on the street or whatever? Have you had several episodes of that?
I have. Let me just respond back to whenever you said it was a difficult decision. It was. After Colin and I had that conversation, it took me about 6 weeks before I agreed to do it. I prayed about it and I thought about it, and Colin patiently waited, and then I finally reached out to him and said, okay. But to respond to your other question, I've had people come up to Harvest House. There was a lot of comments and Facebook interactions that happened on the podcast itself. I've had people reach out to me via Messenger. I've received a number of friend requests. I have to check them very thoroughly. I don't receive unwanted friend requests.
Well, I do too.
But I've added a lot of friends and people that have just been encouraging and supportive of my life, and the I give all the glory to God. I was not able to do any of this in my own strength, and it's all Him, and it's for a purpose. The Bible tells us that God works all things together for good to those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. And I love God. I'm called according to His purpose. And so everything that I went through that the enemy meant for evil, God has now turned to have me have the opportunity to serve the most vulnerable people in our community. And I will continue to do that as long as I'm alive, unless God tells me something different.
Well, I know that you spoke with the Crazy Eights.
Yes.
Sunday, you said?
Sunday, yes.
And there's a lot of people in that situation. I've talked plenty of times with Crazy with Liz Hargrove and Lisa Schwartz, and a good number of their clients are people in that situation.
Yes.
And a good number of y'all's clients at Harvest House are in that situation. And I know we have a place in Fort Worth, that One Safe Place.
One Safe Place. They're amazing.
Yeah, I've been trying to get them on the show, but it's like it's a lot bigger organization, so I need to get a hold of them and say, hey, come on the show, doggone it. But anyway,
I've got a contact for you. I will get I'll get that over to you. They came and spoke to our Getting Ahead program.
Okay.
So
if you would just
yes,
contact him if you would and say, hey, you need to get on the show if you want anybody to know about you. No, that's not true. But anyway, it's,
If
you know,
anybody who's anybody is on
that's
Mr. Allard's
what I'm
neighborhood,
saying.
right?
I'm saying, how are they going to hear about you? My vast listening audience here. But anyway, that's a hard story because I'm sure you have to relive all the trauma every time you tell that story. And, the people, you said, well, why did you wait so long? You asked that question of yourself. That's not unusual at all. I mean, people who have gone through that may never speak of it. And, a lot of people, I'm sure you've asked, well, why did you stay and all this other stuff? It's not that easy. It's not like that. And because I've dealt with students like that. I've had family members, extended family members, that have gone through traumatic events. And they're not going to be, hey, this is what's happened to me, just like that. It takes years maybe to work through it, the emotions of it, to try to get to the point where they could speak of it. So
That is absolutely accurate. And the biggest thing that, and I talked about that on the podcast, that the answer to the question of why did you stay is that there's some point that it doesn't just start out with all with the physical aggression. Nobody would stay if I walked up to you and punched you, or you walked up to me and punched me. I would be like, man, this is completely unacceptable. But there's a grooming process that happens, and then there is a psychological break that happens, and then after that, typically is whenever the physical abuse has started. So one of the things I talk about is how when you think of grooming and you think of sexual related crimes and things like that, we consider those people vulnerable victims, but I believe that people that are being groomed for physical violence and the abusers are the victims of that are just as vulnerable as children and elderly are, because there's been a psychological break that you're not thinking in your right mind. And so advocating for that and making sure that people understand the resources that are available, and that first responders and police officers and legislators understand the laws that are needed and the proper response to the amount of the percentages, and Colin knows the percentages much better than I do, of people that die from the hands of their domestic violence partners.
Yeah.
And police officer brutality on those, when they get those calls, the statistics speak for themselves about how serious of a situation it is.
This would be a good time to talk about what Burleson Police have. They have a victims assistance line, and there's a poster in many of the places around Burleson. I don't know, Josh, do we still have that?
They won an
Assistance
award
program?
for that poster.
Yeah, and I believe we have it in the bank somewhere, I think. But I've seen it in several places. Now it's mostly in women's restrooms, so I'm not hanging around there. No, but I've seen them in several places that have like maybe one restroom for both men and women, or I've seen some out in the open. Not just in a.
We have them at Harvest House. Love shouldn't hurt.
Right. And so if you know somebody in this situation, I would try to get them involved with that victim assistance program, because a lot of the victim assistance isn't just what we're talking about here, but also if you have a situation where somebody's in need of your Harvest House services, they will also direct them towards you.
Absolutely. So whenever you respond to that poster or you reach out to the police department, you're going to be put in contact with Stephanie. She's the victims assistance person for the Burleson Police Department, and I know her personally, and she is an incredible woman. I've worked together with her for the past 5 years, and you are going to get an actual person. You're going to get her, and she is not a police officer. She's a civilian who works for the police department. And she is by far the best victims assistance person that I've ever come into contact with in my life. I wish I would have had someone like her in the past, but she's amazing. You get a live person. She'll walk you through, your options. And you're correct. There's elderly people. There's all different areas that Stephanie assists with for victims. And a lot of those referrals do come to Harvest House. And we're here for some people who may not feel comfortable reaching out to the police department. You can always come to Harvest House. We are a safe place. And
well, that's the old one.
That's the old one, yeah. The new one's
Josh.
white.
Has Melissa Miller from the Chamber of Commerce on it. Did you know it was her?
I did not realize that was Melissa.
Yeah. When we
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Is that a secret? I thought everybody
Well, I
knew that.
have them all over Harvest House.
Yeah.
I've never even noticed that was.
No, that's like I said, Josh. That they replaced it because I think once they said, hey, maybe you ought to rephrase what you're saying, and so Colin went out and did another one. And with Melissa, and she has her hair covering her face and all this other stuff, and I've had her on the show several times, and
She's great.
And we don't talk about that very often. It's mostly chamber business, but we showed it a couple times before, and she's like, "Oh well," kind of trying to be
Give her a hard
modest.
time. I did not know.
I had
Well,
no idea that was her.
Well, anyway, see, you were worried that you wouldn't be able to fill an hour, and we're
Yeah.
almost done. Look at this. See, that's what happens. Get on here, and if Josh didn't have such a book schedule, we could do this for another hour and a half. But y'all got things to do too, I imagine. But anyway, there's a couple of things I want to throw up there. I guess one is the 88.3's been promoting this show. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the journey, right?
Oh, yes.
They are huge supporters of Harvest House and our community. I've listened to 88.3 for a long time. And I have a commercial on 88.3 for Harvest House.
Well, send it to me. Because Next Step did one for when they were doing something, and if you can send it to me, it's already in a proper format. I could put it on the radio station, which is the next thing he's going to throw up there.
I need to get with Rich. I don't have a copy of it.
Well, just you email Rich. He could send it to me because we communicate weekly. This show will be on tonight at 6 and tomorrow again at 1 on community radio, which is on Live 365. Tune in, and usually I provide a link on the Facebook page. And so I put this show on. I put your episode with Colin on about a month ago, I believe.
Yes.
And I don't know how it impacted anybody, if how many people heard it or not, but somebody did.
Well, there was definitely people that heard and that have reached out and
I think it was very impactful. I don't think that there's been a week that I haven't been out in the community where someone has come up and spoke about Amber being on Colin's show and speaking about her past and how impactful it was for them. I tend to agree with you guys. It's very hard to talk about. It's almost a hush situation for a lot of women.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you deal with some of the clients in like situations, they're reluctant to share their story. And so that's what's good about y'all is that y'all provide a safe place to do that, and you may be the first person they've told in a while, if at all, or anybody, so that's always a good thing. So again, check this out at 6 or tonight or 1 o'clock tomorrow. And like I said, if you get Rich to send me that radio commercial, it'll just pop right on. It's easy enough. I got a couple of other nonprofit ads running, and so there's no expense to that. So there's nothing to worry about
thank you.
that.
We appreciate you very much.
It's all right. Maybe this is my calling. I don't know. When I started this show, I'll be coming on 6 years on Labor Day. And I started with me ranting about whatever political issues irritated me at that time. But this is where the show has evolved over the last few years, and I think it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think this is what it was intended for, even if that wasn't maybe the first thought in my head. So
You're making friends instead of enemies this way.
I hope so. I don't know. Sometimes I get on the political rants. They're like, "You're a rhino," or whatever. Give me a break, Don't tell it America.
There's only one lens, in my opinion, that we can continue to see our world in, and that's the spiritual lens. I'm not on any side. I'm on God's side.
Well, that's a good side. It's a good side to be on. And in these times, they're pretty trying. But I'm older than both of you by a good bit, and I can tell you we've been through trying times before, and so we'll survive.
It feels like it's the end of the world. It's coming soon.
That's what they
My kids keep telling me, Mom, the end of the world's coming. Have you seen what's happening?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, everyone's thought it was the end of the world in their generation.
Yeah, well, like my generation. How old are your kids? Teenagers, right?
13 and 15.
Well, see, when I was in high school, Hal Lindsey's book, The Late Great Planet Earth, was very, very popular amongst my age group. And we're all thinking we're going to be, it's going to happen in 1984 or something like that, And then when disco came along, I thought maybe they're right. So maybe it is
Or
the end of the world.
Y2K. Or Y2K.
Y2K.
We thought the world was going to end in Y2K.
I wasn't too worried about that. It was just, But then disco faded like it should, and therefore we moved on. And no, Irma, I will not be playing that Bee Gees song that Brandon loves so much. How deep is your love? Anyway, yeah, I'm getting a little silly. But anyway, y'all finish this off. Kelly, tell us what we need to know.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, everybody's watching you now.
Just put the hot spot on me.
Just give us a couple minutes of a summary, and then we'll let Amber finish, and then
Oh, my goodness.
then we'll let you go.
I don't even know where to begin.
Just tell us about events coming up.
So currently, like Amber said, we're preparing for our event in September for our Bridges Out of Poverty. And then we'll be preparing also for our Harvest Brunches which is something we do every year. It's going to be on November 6th at Pathway Church.
Pathway does a lot of stuff for the community, don't they? I mean, it's either at First Baptist or at Pathway. And every time I get a city council member or the mayor on, I said, we need a convention center in this town. And they said, oh, we also need to fix the roads. So what are you going to choose?
Let's fix the roads first.
Yes.
Let's fix the roads first.
Well,
I think we've started, right?
well, yeah, and I'll have Victoria on next Tuesday, and we'll be talking about that, and also Burleson Opportunity Fund, which is a whole nother topic. But maybe your kids go to Burleson
No,
School?
we live in Joshua.
Oh, darn, you missed out on it. And didn't, well, I don't know, y'all in the 76028 zip code?
76058.
Oh, darn.
I wasn't that we started in 76028 in Joshua schools, and so then we actually moved into the Joshua School District when I came back from Georgia.
Oh, dear. Oh, well. We'll be talking about that next week. And also I have another one of your colleagues on. I'll make sure I have it right, but I'm pretty sure I know who it is. Yes, it is our friend Elizabeth Becker from House of Hope.
Oh,
And,
awesome.
because she'll probably have a similar story, unfortunately, about dealing with some of these changes in policy, but also about her needs as well.
Yeah, we love Crowley House of Hope.
Yeah, I got a few nonprofits. I also have a Kindred Montessori school in a couple of weeks. That's going to be interesting because, as a former educator, I'm always interested in these new. I don't know how new Montessori education is, but it's new for Burleson. So,
Yeah, she's new to Burleson.
Yeah.
She's a great gal.
and then I got Center for ASD and Next Step. So I say,
Lisa and Megan.
yeah, and it's gonna be a full month. It's a good time to do it, during the summer. Everybody needs a break from politics. Josh, they're all gone. You still awake over there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
We're doing great.
All right, well, we let you go because I know you got more to come. Jonathan Moore comes on in a couple hours, right?
That's correct.
Take Back Your Joy. Are you familiar with Jonathan? He's at Joshua ISD now, but he was my colleague at BHS for many, many years, and he does a show called Take Back Your Joy. He's
Oh, wow.
a minister of various titles at a local church, and he was a math teacher, and now he works in the administration. I think he's an instructional coach for math at Joshua ISD, but is a really great show because he talks about how similar to what we were talking about 10 minutes ago, similar type of situations. So it's a great show.
Well, we appreciate you allowing us to be on here. Thank you so much.
It's all right. It's a good show always. I always enjoy it. So anyway, y'all take care. Like Mr. Ash says, y'all stay cool out there, and we'll see y'all next Monday.
All right.
Thank you.